Ethics and social responsibility. Ethics are the moral principles that govern a person's or a company's behavior. Social responsibility dictates that individuals and companies have a duty to act in the best interests of their environment and society as a whole. Are these two ideals equal? Are they compatible? Are they mutually important? These are important issues, and we'll discuss them with today's guest when we come back.
Create a stronger and more dynamic business. Larry Kortkamp, founding partner at the Kortkamp Group, talks with industry insiders about trending topics moving the needle for local business today.
Expectations for corporate social responsibility and ethical behavior are at an all-time high, and I have no doubt that those expectations will continue to grow in the future. My guest today is Lance Van Winkle. Lance is the CFO and Director of Business Development for King of Texas Roofing Company, consistently ranked as one of the top 20 commercial roofing companies in America. Thanks for being with us today, Lance. This is some big stuff we're talking about.
Yes, Larry, it's great to be with you.
Ethics and social responsibility. As someone that is in the role that you're in as large a company that you're with, these are things that I would have no doubt that your company faces on a pretty regular basis. How do you respond? Let's take it smaller. As King of Texas, how do you impact in say a community level instead of maybe on a national or global? We've got some nice photos on the board for us today. You're obviously in that league that you do large jobs, the American Airlines Center here locally. Right. So these are big contracts. How do you stay relevant to the community that you're in?
So first, one of the things that we do as a sidearm of our business is we do charitable projects where we actually do pro bono work.
Really?
But more on an education side, we actually educate our customers, whether they're building owners or general contractors, throughout the estimation process, the whole pre-build process, and pre-installation process. We feel like it's our commitment to properly educate them so that when they go through the actual engagement, if we have any sticking points, that they understand what we're going to walk through and how we're going to solve the problem.
So in that respect, obviously we talk about a lot of small businesses on the show and on our network. That's our focus, is to help bring light to the small business. And other than a little bit more square footage and some bigger numbers there, really the problems are the same. You want to take care of the customer, and whether it's whatever you're doing with them, you want to make sure that they're properly informed beforehand. They know the scope of the project, what you hope to do for them, and what they need to do on their side in order to do that. So for me, that's like corporate ethics, right? That's how you deal with your customers and the people that you are working for. There's the other side, which is more, as we kind of led into the show today, there's that ethical question on a bigger standpoint and how you position yourself in a community from making sure you're doing good work for the community, right? And I know that's where your pro bono work comes in.
So I'll even add to that is that even a part of our vision and mission is that we want to exhibit the highest ethical practices. We want to use economic responsibility, the type of materials we use, the type of innovation and approach that we use in terms of roof installation. Then we also want to have environmental sensitivity. Along with our charitable projects that we work on, we want to be a part of that community, and we have to have the expertise to do that. So what I found in my organization coming on about 6 years ago is that we've got the expertise to really deliver exceptional roof systems for large companies.
And you touched on something there from an environmental standpoint you kind of forget about. These are hard structures with real materials that have to go in there, and there is an environmental component to that we typically probably don't think about a lot.
That is correct.
We're glad that you do.
Yes.
You're also the CFO in this company. I mean, it's finance, yes, and it's fine. So you have your own ethical standards, correct, in your position that you've got to deal with, correct?
Yeah, so to your point, under the AICPA, American Institute of Certified Public Accounts, we have a professional code of conduct, plus under the Texas Society or the Texas business community, we have a set of professional conduct ethical codes that we have to follow, and that being key is not only having the expertise, but following both national and sometimes international guidelines. And then secondly is having objectivity and a lack of conflict of interest, meaning I can't own in a particular public entity and actually do audit or financial work for them. So it's guidelines like that that we're provided with those are a basis in terms of both ethics, meaning those being moral principles, and that starting with integrity, doing the right thing. And rightness, it could be in any different context in any given situation. But that's knowing your awareness of where you need to be, not only on an individual level, but on a company level. So I work with our outside CPA firm. Even though I'm a CPA, I work with our outside CPA firm because we need audit for our banks and also for our bonding requirements.
That's separate from
Yes,
an internal thing done by your
absolutely.
company. So one of the reasons why you and I haven't known each other that long, but we've known each other long enough to know that we're kind of like-minded on a lot of things. And some of that is the reason I kind of chose these two subjects to talk about is because that's part of what we talk about when we talk. It's ethics and social responsibility, particularly from a corporate standpoint. And one thing that I have, how can I say this delicately? I just think we as a nation of corporations, a lot of us, have kind of leaned more towards that socially responsible side with an ever-changing definition of what that happens to be, right? So socially responsible is doing good things within your community. That may be changed to who we hire or the types of materials we use or the types of companies we do or don't do business with. I don't know, it can be kind of clouded. And I'm hoping that we see a change of direction where we come back to where that moral side
Yes.
plays a bigger portion into these decisions that we make. So as a company, we do have that ethical standard. It's not just ethics between me and you as a company and a customer, but ethics as a human on the planet, right? Or as a patriot within the United States. How do we ethically go about our business, still being true to our company and our employees, but also at the same time being true to ourselves as a nation and how we do that. So I always enjoy our conversations.
Well, if I could add to what I've said, Larry, is that even at a national level, the National Roofing Contractors Association, we're heavily involved with that organization. And the leadership of that organization, we basically look to both ethical standards and building standards we have to follow, whether they're localized or national. So let's just say code that's out there, building code, we have to adhere to that, but also we're looking to professionalize our industry because we'd like to attract more people to the industry.
And I know that's something you really want to talk about, and
Yes.
we're going to do that because I agree with you. I mean, this is that's part of our workforce that we really don't get a lot of attention. We're trying to do that, and there's a lot of effort pointed toward that, and I think you're one of the big reasons for it. So into this ethical question, I really am happy and proud to see one of our local companies, a Dallas company, that is standing up to make certain choices, sometimes at the expense of a job or a customer, that you do the right thing and that it actually comes into the equation for you when you guys consider a job or consider a course of action that you're going to take, whether that's in your choice of materials or choice of or client that you may be working with.
I'll say best pragmatic and innovative solutions. Sounds like a trite statement, but it's not within our, zone of how we work with our customers. Meaning, we've got, back to what our standards are, manufacturers actually delivered what I'll call the building product standards, but then we also communicate that with our clients, and that is solving problems in real time, innovative problems, and based on quality that's driven in our process.
How many employees do you have at?
We have a little over 100 employees.
It's quite a few people depending on what you guys do each day. It's a big responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Do you wear that responsibility? I mean, this is back to that ethical question, right? So it's like, you're responsible for
Yes,
for people.
absolutely. I've actually been on a number of our roofs and been a part of the installation team And I do a lot of estimating where I go out to a job site and estimate what it's going to take for us to do a re-roof on an existing building.
Very good.
Heavily involved in the business.
Well, I'm enjoying our conversation to this point. I think we're going to take it in a little bit different direction when we come back. You're watching or listening to Biz Pointz TV on the OBBM network. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? We're spending late nights uncovering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working, or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
My American dream is to help you stay healthy and energized so you can live your American dream.
Our American dream is equipping future generations of American dreamers.
My American dream is to protect my community so they can live their American dream.
My American dream is to bring you some spice and flavor to your life.
Our American dream is ensuring what's most valuable to you.
Our American dream is creating opportunities for healthcare providers so they can have their American dreams.
My American dream is serving our business community and advocating for all of your American dreams.
Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation with Lance Van Winkle. Lance, one of the reasons why I was really excited about you being a guest today is because you have a lot of worldly experience to do. Why don't we give our audience just a little taste of some of your background and how you kind of came to this position that you're currently in?
Well, I started my career at Ernst & Young, and I was a graduate of Baylor, both an accounting finance major. But I started my career at Ernst & Young, and then moved on to some large multinational companies, both in the healthcare, technology, and building space. One of them was Syntex Corporation, and they did a lot of general construction as well as home building. That aside, then I went into consulting for a publicly held international consulting firm. They only hired, guys who were 15 or 20 years into their business career, so we had direct communication with the C-suite, directors of management, so on and so forth. So I traveled to Paris, managed a project over there for 7 months, Sydney, Australia, 5 months, Dubai, about a month, London, Switzerland, and overall, then had a quick stint in Sweden as well. But I did a lot of mergers and acquisition work, but I did a lot of merger integration work, so it took a lot of people-oriented skills to make that happen, and being a good technician. I will just say that experience showed me the different cultures and how people are raised in countries like France. They have different ways of doing business. The Germans have different ways of doing business. The English have different. And I've managed, really all those cultures, and I'll just say it was very challenging, but it gave me a lot of appreciation that we live in the greatest country on the planet.
Again, which is why I'm really happy that you're here today, particularly for the subjects that we were discussing earlier: ethics, social responsibility, moral equivalence, and how how those terms might change depending on where you happen to be on the globe, right? And how it interacts with that, and where we as American corporations stand when we're dealing with overseas interest in other places. So we've done some pretty lofty conversations. Let's break it down a little bit. Okay. So King of Texas, I like it when you answer the phone, because that's how you answer the phone, isn't it? King of Texas. So it's good to be king, right?
Absolutely.
King of Texas. So we know you have about 100 employees. We know you're a large roofing contractor. Can you tell us more about the actual business and what you do?
Yes, absolutely, and I'll tie that in with what we're doing at a national level too, with the NRCA, is that we're really trying to ramp up entry-level positions, that's being guys, women or men that would get on the roof and say that they would work on the roof for 1.5 to 2 years, then they would start moving up the chain of command. Move up to foreman, move up to superintendent, then come in the office and start doing estimating and project management. Along that career path, along with potentially being the CEO some days, is that you're making north of $200,000 to $250,000 a year in any sizable roofing company in the United States. That says a lot for the industry, and we start out our wages at about $50,000 or $60,000 a year.
I think that really puts it into perspective, and it's one of the reasons I really like talking about industries like yours. I think Americans as a whole, and we have people in our media world, Mike Rowe for one, that really have gone out of their way to bring attention to industries like yours. And I think it's important because you see another career path for you. And you casually said people on the roof, but it's more than just being on the roof. You're working on a team of players, right? That's a great number of people. They all have their positions to play. They all have their things to do. These are skilled positions. You're dealing with different types of roof compositions. You're dealing with roofs that are in acres, not in square feet. So it's a huge responsibility for people. But what comes with that is equal earnings capabilities and a path to, like you said before, some of the people that work for you actually have the ability to almost have the same responsibilities as if they owned their own company.
Yes.
Right? So someone who may not have considered this as an employment career for them, I'm hoping listening to you with the potential earning potential that they get, as well as the job description, you're not just shoveling dirt or pounding a nail. There's a lot that goes into having this type of position.
And there's two things that I wanted to add to that. I tied in the National Roofing Contractors. We have a pro certification program. So any individual that's got 2 years in, we actually tag him with certification. He's passed a written exam as well as what I'll call physical performance exam. Secondly, we're training our guys in our shop before they get on the roof. So there's immediate on-the-job training, but then the pro certification actually gives you credentials on the street, whether it's with King of Texas or any other roofing company.
So their job could be portable.
Absolutely.
Then? You could go to another. I, as a person, have actually, with my family and others, have been heavily involved in construction and sub-development of buildings and properties, and a lot of these trades do kind of overlap with one another. So the fact that you have been involved in a trade like this, at the level that you probably have the opportunity to get to level as one of your employees, that really is translatable to a lot of different industries where they appreciate that skill level and the experience that you've been in. If you're running a team of workers on a project of that size, even as a foreman or even as maybe a team leader, I don't know what you're calling them in yours, but those are transportable jobs to a lot of different industries. Where have you typically drawn your employment force from?
We've gone to the high schools. We've also put we've put recruitment searches out there online. We've also gone to churches. We have really tried to up our game, and we're actually hiring recruiters to actually recruit for us, which historically has not been the case in this industry. It's been more of we have 4 or 5 guys that will show up on site, interview, and we'll send them out to a job site. But it's a lot more. The workforce restriction is significant today.
Well, your industry is not exempt, right?
Yes.
It's going through the same growing pains that a lot of businesses and industries are in the U.S. And that's the other reason why I'd hope to have you on, because I am, as Biz Pointz and we, as the OBBM network, we are trying to cultivate a workforce, right? We're trying to get people more excited about participating in what we do here as a life in the United States. And it's not all, we've grown up with this thing that it's all tech, it's all, it's Google or it's this or it's that, and it's a digital world, and it's not. You and I are not sitting inside a digital world, right? We're sitting inside a building that was crafted by technicians and workers and skilled labor to make a floor or put a wall up or do a building up and a roof on top of that. So these are career paths that people have forgotten about, and I'm hoping that companies like yours, which you seem to be doing a terrific job at, are going to encourage more people to become a part of it. We're going to take another quick break. We'll be back in just a second after we have another word from our sponsors. We've been talking with Lance Van Winkle, and we'll see you in just a moment.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? We're spending late nights and covering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working, or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
My American dream is to help you stay healthy and energized so you can live your American dream.
Our American dream is equipping future generations of American dreamers.
My American dream is to protect my community so they can live their American dream.
My American dream is to bring you some spice and flavor to your life.
Our American dream is ensuring what's most valuable to you.
Our American dream is creating opportunities for healthcare providers so they can have their American dreams.
My American dream is serving our business community and advocating for all of your American dreams.
Hi, and welcome back. We've been talking today with Lance Van Winkle, King of Texas Roofing Company. Lance, this is our last time for us to visit in this show. We kind of touched a little bit on the industry of roofing, but we really did just touch on it. It's actually it's a lot of interesting information that goes into creating a roof. Can you kind of enlighten our audience a little bit on maybe some of the stages or segments or whatever it happens to be?
Absolutely, and I'll start off with new construction. Usually the building cycle doesn't happen for 6 months after we've bid a job, but we get into a bid by looking at the architectural plans. So it's building structure, it's the mechanical, it's the structurals, and it's even the roof plan. So what do we got to put on the roof? And all that's got to meet code based on, and I won't get into too technical terms, but R value, and that's really the thermal insulation you're going to have on the building.
You know, while you're on that subject, does that come to you? I mean, is that already fixed, part of the architectural design of the building? Do they say, I want it to be all glass, or I want it to be Spanish tile, or I want it to be whatever? Do they come to you with that?
In new construction, it is.
And then it's your job to achieve the dream?
Build to those codes and structural elements that we need to install on the roof. And a lot of times when we do both what we call single ply, as you can see in some of these buildings here, and we also do standing seam. Standing seam is more on the metal side. If you've ever seen architectural metal on a residential roof,
it's got that
or a small
standing
building,
seam going down the
absolutely.
center of the
So
panels.
we do both so that we have a turnkey solution. So if we have anything involved in single ply as well as standing seam, we can do it as a turnkey solution. Beyond that, so we get into what is the cost buildup, and we actually use a software called Edge Estimating System. And it's actually a lot of buildup. You technically have to understand what you're doing because you've got all these adhesives, you've got these screws, plates, membrane, insulation. You got to pull it all together to actually put the proposal together. So oftentimes when we do a proposal for new construction, we'll do about 5 turns on that estimation process before we actually land the job. Now, if I move over into existing construction or an existing building, and oftentimes warranties last about 15 to 20 years, the customer can actually designate how long they want the warranty for, but let's just say 15, 20 years is pretty much on average. Actually, for example, I'll go out, get up on the roof, take a look at how the thickness. We do what we call core cuts to see what we've got underneath, and then see if we've actually got to tear the entire roof off to get down to the deck. And typically it's a metal deck, but sometimes we have concrete decks. And based on those conditions, I have to go back, read code to make sure that I can actually either layer on top or I have to tear off, talk to my boss, my father-in-law, because he's the what I'll call our CRO, Chief Risk Officer, because he knows every building condition that we've been in the last 35 or 40 years. And that is an important point in terms of expertise that helps us so much in understanding complex jobs, both in the new construction as well as existing building conditions. Oftentimes our bid cycle's a lot shorter on existing buildings, but we're working directly with the owner. So we're able to get a quick turn. We just got to educate the owner on what we have to do. And then we'll put what we call perimeter metal on the building. It's called coping cap or gutter or downspouts, things like that. But typically, you know, even a small roof, we're looking at north of 100, 200,000. And it could be in the, you know, 1 million and up range. But I'm just giving you a sense of what the value of it is. And typically, again, we're given a 15 or 20 year warranty.
And we talked earlier that you're not immune to some of the other conditions that we're facing, employment, and you're not immune to our supply chain issues that are going on as well. So today, when you're trying to bid this job that's going to be 6 months or 8 months or 9 months down the road, you have to anticipate how those materials are going to show up, when they're going to get here. You talked about costing. Today's cost may not be what you actually finalize the products at.
Correct.
So adjusting your estimate or preparing the customer for...
Today's business looks quite different than it did a year ago, meaning with the supply chain issues, and I'll just hit the high topics. Is first of all, delivery. We don't control the delivery cycle anymore, meaning we work with four or five of the top manufacturers, both nationally and globally, and we're getting what we call allocations. So if I said I need it in July, they may not give it to me until August, September, and October. I can't do a roof that way, meaning from an installation standpoint. So cost, we're having to build in what we call contingency allowances, and the reason I mention that is that one roof could have been 1.2, but now it's 1.5 because I need to consider those escalations that may happen from the supplier. A lot of this is driven by raw materials worldwide, meaning there's a product called MDI that's put in the insulation, and I'll keep this very simple, but MDI is what raises insulation, and actually it goes through the oven process is what will raise it, gives it substance and thickness. There's a shortage of that worldwide. It's used a lot in the automobile industry, you know, fabrics, furniture, upholstery, things like that. So we're struggling on that front. And then there's several of steel screws and plates and things like that we use it.
Do a lot of your materials come from the States, or are you?
A lot of them come from the state from a final product standpoint, but again, these raw materials, some of these raw materials are sourced either from China or Saudi Arabia or Vietnam in some cases. So,
it's tough for the general public to understand. It's one thing to do a smaller roof, but again, the numbers that you guys are dealing with, trying to anticipate those shipments coming in multiplied by 500,000 square feet or whatever that building size.
Well, you can only imagine what an owner thinks today. An owner wants to invest, meaning the ultimate owner. GC's probably got a general contractor that's building it for him, but he's saying, you know, my cost is going to go up $500,000 now.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you know, their hair stands
And we have some members of our audience today that are involved in financing. They don't like to hear that information as well.
No.
Because that was 6 months ago when they were allocating that money to you as well. So it does make a difference. So we've covered a lot about King of Roofing and or King of Texas Roofing. We wanted to make a point that this is a good career path. So if somebody says now, hey, I never thought of that before. How do I get in touch with you at King of Texas? How do I apply for a career there?
Yeah, so first of all, my email address is lance@kingoftexas.com. It's very simple, straightforward, all spelled out. Secondly, our phone number is 972-399-0003. And feel free to email me. If you can't get in contact with me, call my wife, Kelly Van Winkle. She's the CEO of the corporation.
It's nice to hear that this is we talk about family-owned businesses all the time. Family-owned business has taken a large group from small to big. So it's nice to see that it stays in the family and that it's lasted for as long as it has. So thank you for being with us today. You've been watching or listening to Biz Pointz TV on the OBBM network. We are recorded with a live audience at Grace Point Media Studios. I thank my guest, Lance Van Winkle, for joining me today. You can find contact information for Lance and King of Texas Roofing in the show notes of this episode. And you'll also find other links in there to more episodes of Biz Pointz, as well as other great OBBM shows. And you can find us on Rumble, Spotify, CloudHub, Gab, Roku, so many platforms, there's too many to mention. Whether you're at home, in your office, or in your car, you're just a click away from anywhere, anytime, watching a good program on OBBM. Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And I'll see you again next time on the next episode of Biz Pointz.
To be a guest or request sponsorship information, contact the Kortkamp Group at 972-824-8001 today. Production and programming information requests for the OBBM network should be directed to Offbeat Business Media by calling 214-714-0495 or send your request to info@offbeatbusiness.com. Biz Pointz TV, podcast, and radio show are produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM network. Unauthorized use of logos, audio, video, or reproduction is strictly prohibited.